The emergency room doctor looked me in the eyes and quietly said, "We need to begin treatment today." I only needed $5,500 after insurance, so I called my husband, believing he'd tell me everything would be okay. Instead, he laughed and said, "We just closed on a beach house. Figure it out yourself." A few minutes later, my mother-in-law took the phone and added, "Stop bothering my son." I thought I had reached the lowest point of my life. I was wrong. That evening, my father-in-law secretly slipped an envelope into my hand, and everything changed. My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm 33 years old, and until that Tuesday morning, I believed no matter how difficult life became, my husband and I would always face it together. Looking back now, I realize I was holding on to a version of our marriage that had quietly disappeared long before I noticed. Our 6-year-old daughter, Lily, was the center of my world. She had an infectious laugh, endless curiosity, and somehow managed to make even ordinary afternoons feel magical. Every decision I made revolved around giving her a safe, happy childhood. My husband, David, hadn't always been distant. During our first years together, he was attentive and dependable. But over the last 2 years, something changed. His business trips became longer, his phone stayed locked, and every conversation seemed rushed. Whenever I asked if everything was okay, he'd smile and say, "I'm just working hard for our future." I wanted to believe him. That Tuesday started like every other. I packed Lily's lunch, braided her hair, and promised we'd bake cookies after school. 2 hours later, my phone rang. The school nurse's voice was calm but urgent. "Mrs. Mitchell, we'd like you to come pick Lily up. She's not feeling well." Within an hour, we were sitting in a hospital room while doctors carefully explained that Lily needed treatment to begin as soon as possible. Insurance would cover most of the expenses, but there were still forms to complete and $5,500 that needed to be arranged before everything could move forward without delay. I barely heard anything after that number. There was only one person I wanted beside me. With trembling hands, I stepped into the hallway, pulled out my phone, and called my husband, completely certain that the moment he answered, he'd tell me everything was going to be okay. I stood alone in the hospital hallway, staring through the glass window at Lily as a nurse gently adjusted her blanket. David answered on the 4th ring. "Hey," he said casually. "I'm in the middle of something. Can this wait?" My voice shook.
No.
"Lily's in the hospital. The doctors want to begin treatment today. Insurance is helping, but we still need $5,500. There was a brief silence. Then he sighed. "Sarah, the timing couldn't be worse." "What do you mean?" "We just closed on the beach house this morning." I frowned. "What beach house?" "The one I've been telling you about investing in." "You never told me you were buying a house." "It was a good opportunity." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Our daughter is in a hospital room waiting for treatment." "I know," he replied, sounding strangely calm. "But all our available cash went into the down payment. You'll have to figure something else out." Before I could answer, another voice came onto the line. It was my mother-in-law. "Sarah, stop upsetting my son," she said sharply. "He's worked hard for that investment. Surely the hospital has payment plans. Go ask them." She didn't even ask how Lily was doing. The call ended before I could say another word. I lowered the phone, feeling like the floor had disappeared beneath me. A hospital social worker named Karen walked over and quietly sat beside me. "You look like you're carrying the weight of the world," she said gently. I nodded, unable to hold back my tears. Karen handed me a tissue. "Please don't lose hope," she said. "Sometimes help arrives from the place you least expect." About an hour later, I looked up and saw someone walking slowly through the hospital entrance.
It wasn't David.
It was my father-in-law, Thomas. He met my eyes and quietly said, "Sarah, could we talk somewhere private?" Thomas led me to a quiet garden beside the hospital where a few empty benches overlooked a small fountain. For a moment, neither of us spoke. His shoulders seemed heavier than I had ever seen them. Finally, he reached into the inside pocket of his jacket and handed me a large sealed envelope. "I wish we were meeting under better circumstances," he said softly. Confused, I opened it. Inside was a cashier's check made out to the hospital. The amount was exactly $5,500. My breath caught. Thomas, I can't accept this. Yes, you can, he replied firmly. Your daughter shouldn't have to wait because adults made poor choices. Before I could respond, he pointed to another folded paper inside the envelope. Read that too. It was a handwritten letter. Sarah, if you're reading this, then I'm sorry my son failed you when you needed him most. No grandfather should ever stand by while his granddaughter's future hangs in the balance. My eyes filled with tears. Thomas looked away, clearly struggling with his emotions. I raised David to value family, he said quietly. Somewhere along the way, he started valuing possessions more than people. I couldn't understand any of it. He told me there wasn't any money left. Thomas nodded slowly. That's because this wasn't the first reckless financial decision he's made. My heart sank. What do you mean? For nearly a year, Thomas continued, he's been chasing expensive investments without discussing them with you, your mother-in-law, and I warned him repeatedly to slow down and think about his family first. Everything suddenly felt different. The late-night meetings, the unexplained expenses, the business trips that never quite made sense. Thomas placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. Sarah, there's something else you deserve to know. Those words made me realize the story was far from over. Thomas took a deep breath before continuing. About 18 months ago, David started believing every investment would make him wealthy overnight. At first, they were small decisions. Then they became larger and riskier. I listened without interrupting. Your mother-in-law, and I tried to convince him to slow down, Thomas said. Instead, he became obsessed with buying things that looked successful instead of building a stable future. Suddenly, every missing piece of the last 2 years began falling into place. The unexplained credit card balances, the constant business trips, the weekends he claimed he was meeting investors, the conversations he always avoided. None of it seemed random anymore. That evening, after Lily's treatment had begun, I returned home and quietly gathered our financial records. For the first time, I looked through every statement instead of trusting the monthly summaries David usually showed me. I wasn't searching for revenge. I was searching for clarity. The numbers revealed something painful. Several major purchases and loans had been made without ever discussing them with me. They weren't illegal or hidden, but they had changed our financial situation far more than I had realized. I closed the folder and reminded myself of something important. None of this mattered more than Lily getting better. The next morning, the doctor smiled for the first time since we'd arrived. She's responding well, he said. We're very encouraged. Relief washed over me. Just then, my phone rang. David. I stared at his name before answering. Sarah, I heard treatment has started. Yes, I replied calmly. I think we need to talk. I looked through the hospital window at Lily, peacefully sleeping. We will, I said quietly, but not today. There was a pause. When our daughter is safely home. I ended the call before another word was spoken. 5 days later, Lily was finally well enough to come home. Seeing her curled up on our living room couch with her favorite stuffed rabbit felt like the first deep breath I'd taken in nearly a week. That evening, David walked through the front door carrying an overnight bag. He looked tired, but not nearly as exhausted as I felt. I came as soon as I could, he said quietly. I nodded toward the dining table. We need to talk. Without raising my voice, I placed several folders in front of him. Bank statements, loan documents, property records, and copies of the recent financial transactions. He looked at them, then at me. You went through everything? I had to. The room fell silent. Finally, he rubbed his forehead. I thought buying the beach house would be a smart investment. I convinced myself it would secure our future. Our future? I asked calmly. When Lily needed us most, you told me to figure it out alone. His eyes dropped to the table. I know how terrible that sounds. It wasn't just how it sounded, I replied. It was the choice you made. For the first time since we'd married, David had no explanation waiting. Only silence. I kept believing there would always be time to fix things, he admitted. I didn't realize what I was risking until Dad called me. I thought about Thomas sitting beside Lily's hospital bed, reading her favorite story, while David was nowhere to be found. My father stepped in without being asked, I said softly. He chose family before finances. David swallowed hard. I've broken your trust. Yes, I answered honestly. I wasn't interested in arguing anymore. My responsibility was clear. Whatever happened next, every decision I made would protect Lily's future first. For the first time, David understood that rebuilding trust would require far more than promises. It would require changing the choices that had broken it. Over the next few weeks, Lily grew stronger every day. Her laughter slowly returned to our home, and with it came a sense of hope I hadn't felt in a long time. Thomas visited every Saturday without fail. Sometimes he brought storybooks. Other times, they spent hours building puzzles or planting flowers in the backyard together. Watching them laugh reminded me that real love isn't announced with grand speeches. It quietly shows up when it's needed most. One afternoon, after Lily had fallen asleep on the couch, I found Thomas sitting on the porch. I don't know how I'll ever thank you, I said. He smiled gently. You already have. I looked at him, confused. You gave me the greatest gift a grandfather could ask for, he continued. The chance to help my granddaughter when she needed family the most. Those words stayed with me. I realized that family isn't defined by shared names or holiday photos. It's defined by the people who stand beside you when life becomes difficult. As Lily wrapped her tiny arms around her grandfather later that evening and whispered, "Thank you for helping Mommy," I saw tears gather in his eyes. In that quiet moment, I knew who the true hero of our story had been all along. 8 months later, our home felt peaceful again. Lily was back in school, chasing dreams that had once been interrupted, and every evening ended with laughter instead of worry. Watching her smile reminded me that the hardest seasons don't last forever. Thomas remained a constant part of our lives, and I never stopped thanking him for showing us what unconditional love truly looks like. If there's one lesson I hope Lily carries into adulthood, it's this. Love isn't measured by expensive gifts, promises, or impressive plans. It's measured by the choices people make when you need them most. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. I'd love to know what you would have done in my situation. Until next time, take care of yourself and the people who truly stand beside you.